The area of South China Sea may soon face chaos. Beneath its calm, blue surface is a battle for control, honor, and might. China has made its latest move, and the ripples are spreading quickly. What started as a modest clash at sea has now become a tipping point in the region's balance of power. In this video, we give an account of how Beijing's increasing aggressiveness in the South China Sea is wearing down Washington's patience and placing the Philippines at the center of a storm of growing clouds. From ships being damaged to military maneuvers, this is the account of how one sea became the most perilous venue for global competition. Before we get underway, please subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss any new updates. Your support allows us to continue to provide powerful stories that reveal the struggles shaping our world. Now, let us uncover how this crisis began and what pushed Beijing to take its latest gamble. Rising tension. The origins of the issue can be traced to an embarrassing incident. Two vessels of the Chinese Coast Guard had collided under tense circumstances during a patrol in Philippine waters. One of the vessels sustained significant damage, and the incident quickly became public knowledge. Rather than acknowledge the embarrassing accident, the Chinese finally opted for a show of strength. The next day, dozens of Chinese vessels appeared near the contested waters, surrounding Philippine patrol vessels in an effort to block their route. Experts asserted that China's intent was to save face through intimidation. Behind a show of strength, a deeper motivation was taking place. China claims nearly the entire South China Sea as its sovereign territory. Consequently, the incident became much more than an embarrassment. It provided justification for Beijing's further assertion of control. However, in order to comprehend the significance of these waters, we must investigate what is actually on it. The stakes. The South China Sea is not simply another body of water. It is one of the busiest maritime trading areas globally, containing nearly one-third of the world's shipping. And what is beneath the water are substantial reserves of oil and gas valued by every major power the world can muster. Those that control these waters control their resources and avenues of movement. But throughout the years, China has created artificial islands and structures throughout the region. It built airstrips, radar stations, and missile platforms, which transformed reefs into fortified islands of base, augmenting China's posture in the sea and signaling resolve and commitment to its neighbors. The Philippines has resisted and will not give in. Since 2023, it has made significant strides in patrols and operations within its own economic zone, which has provoked confrontations with Chinese vessels. Some have been violent. As a signatory to a defense treaty from 1951, the United States is legally bound to defend the Philippines in case U.S. or Philippine forces are attacked. Each potential confrontation of the Philippines' patrols and operations will serve as a near spark for a much larger conflagration. A decaying warship stands at the epicenter of this conflict, a simultaneous object of desire and emblem. The flashpoint. The most dangerous part of the conflict is Second Thomas Shoal, where the Philippines grounded an old Navy ship, the Sierra Madre, to mark its claim in 1999. A small contingent of soldiers still lives on the ship offshore, surrounded by patrolling Chinese ships. China claims the ship's stay is illegal and has requested its removal. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard employs increasingly aggressive tactics to block Philippine supply missions. Recently, Chinese ships returned to the shoal again, this time using nets and barriers around the ships. The Philippines considered it an act of intimidation. This incident follows the most recent confrontation at Scarborough Shoal, where a Chinese destroyer collided with a Coast Guard vessel. The incident resulted in damage to the ship and injuries for the crew, and shame compelled Beijing to act the following weeks. For the Philippines, it was another example that China is willing to use force to demonstrate its claims. Restraint has so far prevented the situation from exploding. As China has become more assertive, the United States cannot stay on the sidelines anymore. American actions. For many years, Washington has consistently said its commitment to the Philippines is firm and unshakable. The Mutual Defense Agreement makes it clear that an armed attack against the armed forces or public vessels of the Philippines anywhere in the South China Sea would be treated as an armed attack against the United States. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited Manila recently to announce the introduction of new anti-ship missile systems for training, and he specifically mentioned this was evidence the alliance remains steadfast against Chinese aggression. China strongly condemned his visit, saying the U.S. is destabilizing the region. Chinese officials stated that foreign military cooperation shouldn't promote instability or target another country. Thus, the rift began with two neighbors is now a tense confrontation of global power. But what was it that drove China to act so boldly at this moment? Perhaps it comes down to timing. Beijing's calculated risk China believes it has an opportunity. The U.S. is preoccupied with conflicts in Europe and the Middle East. It's possible that Beijing sees this as a chance to gain an upper hand in Asia. After the last major incident when American military presence increased in the region, Beijing was cautious, but when distractions grew elsewhere, Beijing was able to test the waters again. Another expert, Ray Powell of Stanford University, warned that Beijing may be waiting for the opportune moment to act against the Sierra Madre. If the Philippines respond with force, Beijing can claim to be the victim and potentially avoid direct confrontation with the U.S. While up to this point, the Philippines has shown great discipline. Its troops have undergone water cannon attacks and dangerous approaches without returning fire, which has kept the conflict one level lower for now. However, patience cannot last forever. The pressure president, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., is under increasing pressure domestically. After repeated Chinese harassment in the water, many Filipinos want stronger measures taken. But Marcos understands that one wrong action could plunge his country into a war. After a number of skirmishes that included injury to sailors, he said that a Filipino death at the hands of China would cross the red line. He has not yet had to invoke the defense treaty, but the situation continues to become more tenuous every month. Both sides have agreed to limited resupply missions to the Sierra Madre on humanitarian grounds. The Philippines has bolstered existing relationships with allies and has established new bases for joint operations. The chessboard is quickly filling up, and each move matters. Yet, underneath the strategy and politics is a more fundamental struggle that shapes this conflict. The bigger game. This conflict is about more than territory. It is about the future of power in the heart of the Pacific. For China, command of the South China Sea implies control of a regional order. For the United States, relinquishing that control is tantamount to a retreat from its global leadership role. Each patrol, each declaration, and each military exercise is part of a larger test. China is testing the limits of how much it can challenge the United States without eliciting a reaction from the U.S. The United States is testing how to express power in response to the actions of China without going to war. And in the middle stands the Philippines, a small country squeezed between two elephants, standing firm with caution and bravery. The latest actions by China involve more than merely claims of sovereignty. They are about testing the limit of American resolve. If Washington hesitates, its allies may soon abandon its assurances. If Washington acts too vigorously, the world may face a reckoning no one wants. As it stands, the region is tense, but quiet. As it stands, the region is tense, but quiet. The quality of peace inherent in the waves in precarious, fragile, and based on fear and calculation. The soldiers remain watchful on the Sierra Madre as Chinese ships hover just beyond and the world awaits the next move. In a game of endurance, patience may be the only factor that stands between the world and calamity. But patience and perseverance also has their limits. If you found this story insightful, please like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more deep reports on global events. Your engagement helps us bring the truth behind the conflicts shaping our world.